My name is Nicholas Semrad. I'm a keyboard player and producer from here in Los Angeles, California. I've toured around the world with people like Cory Henry, Guiliana, Noah, Lauryn Hill, and I also do sound design for Yamaha, Sequential, ASM, and for a bunch of movies that have come out recently. This room is a little studio room in my apartment that I've set up. It's nice to be at home finally, and a lot of these keyboards and gear I have comes from things I've bought or things I've worked on with companies. Actually, a lot of these boards I've probably worked on with companies. You know, it's tough to pick a favorite because every tool does something different. You know, like you wouldn't use a hammer on screws, and so there's certain synths I wouldn't use for different things. But you know, I've got really great analog synths, really great digital ones. I have a ton of like drum machines and weird sequencers. I'm also really deep into like effects pedals and things like that. So there's a lot of those, and a lot of bad cable management as well. So I started taking piano lessons when I was 3, and I was kind of a piano purist for a long time. I grew up in a house that my dad recorded on some Motown things, and I grew up around a lot of that kind of music. You know, I grew up only playing piano and Wurlitzer and organ, things like that. And it wasn't until I got to New York and saw some of these like New York legends playing like really wild stuff on stage that I decided to dive headfirst into synth. So I got into it later. I got into it about 10 years ago or so, but now I'm obsessed. In regards to working as a synth player, there's so many roles because it's such a big instrument sonically. You know, like in Cory Henry's band, I play mainly an auxiliary role, so I'm essentially his support guy. You know, I'm playing a lot of pads, a lot of parts, so that he can go off and do his thing and take solos and kind of dance around and be wild and everything. But with someone like Guiliana or someone like when I was playing with Noah a little bit, there's a lot more soloing and kind of lead stuff happening. So I'm essentially a singer in those bands, even though I'm singing with this. So in regards to my education, I took about 15 years of Suzuki classical music, which primarily focuses on ear training, but you're doing a lot of sight reading and stuff like that too. But I also grew up in a house that was listening to Ray Charles and the Memphis Horns and Bill Withers and stuff like that. So I had kind of a weird mashup of skills from early on. Yeah, in terms of just teaching people, you know, like I feel like I have kind of a very diverse background, like in regards to both electronic music and gospel music. So I can teach people sound design stuff. I can teach people like rhythm exercise because I studied with a drummer, Dana Murray, who played with Wynton Marsalis for a long time. And then I can also teach, you know, kind of the normal skills like sight reading and scales and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I tend to want to be able to teach everything and just base it on whatever the student needs. I got introduced to Apogee through actually Cory Henry and Tayron Lockett. They were doing events there during the pandemic. And so I started hanging around the scene. And a big part of, you know, how I vibe with companies is just seeing how corporate they feel. And, you know, whether or not the thing seems like a family, because I've run into this, and I won't name names, but I've run into this in the past where, you know, if your relationship with someone feels familial, the gear is going to feel like that. You know, if I'm on the road and I need to call for assistance on something or whatever, you know, I want to know that they're going to pick up and know who I am. And Apogee just felt kind of like home there. You know, it was people who I could hang out with outside of the company who not only cared about their friends, but cared about the company as if, and the people who bought the products as if they were their friends, which is really important to me. I enjoy having things that can kind of double as at-home stuff and on-the-road stuff. And I feel like this version of the Duet to me is something that I can have in the backpack, and it's going to be amazing on the road, but also it's my main interface here as well, and I don't notice a difference, you know? So it's been very easy to use that way. And I think the other really important thing to me is that a lot of audio interface companies have like subsidiary softwares, you know, kind of go between things. And so far, the Apogee one is like just so much easier to use than all the other ones. Like I have enough to learn here. I don't want to spend time also learning that. And I think it took me an hour max to like know it pretty well. So good job, Apogee. Yeah, I think the Duet for me, you know, it's been really good at not making me do more work. I spend a lot of time on synths, like really fine tuning really small details of frequencies and effects and all these kind of things. And something that I've experienced in the past is having to redo all that work once I record it. So the fact that this Duet is capturing everything kind of as is, like, makes my job so much easier. Yeah, my experience with the ECS channel strip has just been how easy and simple it is to use. I mean, the fact that I'm one button click away from things that I have to menu dive normally for, again, just makes my life easier, and I'm all about paying money to work less hard. Yeah, I think if you're interested in diving into synths, a key is getting your hands on one. And I know it's a big jump if you want to experiment something, and throwing down a ton of money on it doesn't always seem inviting, but synths are so tactile, it's such a vocal instrument that if you're trying to think about numbers and math problems while you're sound designing, you're not going to feel what the thing is doing. And it's tough to explain, but there's a tangible difference in, like, me turning a knob 0.1% and me getting on a computer and trying to do some digital synth that way. So I think even if you can spend a few $100s and get like a really kind of tiny basic one, that's just the move to understanding how it feels, how it works, and then in no time you'll own 40 more.